Welcome to Life Mastery Radio with Todd Allen and Jackie Bailey, the show that dives into the science of higher consciousness with inspiring topics such as abundance, intention, health, manifestation, love, and transformation. Join Todd, Jackie, and their guests of leading authors, speakers, coaches, and entrepreneurs weekly at 10 a.m. Pacific. Learn to live a peaceful life with intentional mastery. It's all right here with stories and messages to support your well-being and most evocative dreams. Now, here's your hosts, Todd and Jackie.
Hey, it's another groovy day, and most of you already know, but I'm going to tell you that's because I make it that way. When I get up in the morning, I decide it's going to be a groovy day before my feet hit the ground, and guess what? I guarantee you it turns out to be a groovy day, and it works every time. Something might happen, something might change, but I always think back, I started out groovy and I can turn this around, and it works. It's like magic, only it's not really magic. It's just you and your thoughts. Welcome to Life Mastery Radio, the talk show that brings you great thoughts and ideas for you to use on your very own life mastery journey. And that's another reason it's a groovy day, is Life Mastery Radio Day. And I get to hang out with my really good friend, Jackie Bailey, and she is my co-host. Hi, Jackie. How are you today?
Hi, everybody. I'm doing really great. Yeah, thanks for asking.
We've had some really cool shows lately, don't you think? And all those shows are on our YouTube channel at Life Mastery Radio with Todd and Jackie. Go check them out. There's about 300 of them on any topic that you might want to know, and how to better your life, how to live your life, how to show up in the world. Oh my gosh, just the list goes on and on. We're going to have to compile that list one of these days.
We could write a book. We could take the most amazing nuggets from so many years of this show, and we could put it in a compilation book, or we could ask those guests to contribute a chapter to a book, right? I mean, there's so many options we could do, because it, like you say, it is amazing information. And we've never had a guest where we just go, all right, well, just fill space or time. It's never been that way. There's always been something so incredible to glean from it. So,
it wouldn't be that hard these days since we moved to Zoom, and because we can get transcripts now. We get transcripts of the show. So yeah, I don't know what's holding us back, Jackie. How are things at the Speak Feed Lead project? You've got lots of things in cooking. It's hard for me to even keep up with what you're doing, Missy.
I have a hard time keeping up as well. So today I start the premiere episode of what I hope will be a TV show on Roku, and first episode.
I have Roku.
6, yeah. So it's a pilot. Hopefully they will say, hey, this is cool. It's called Being Present with Your Stage Presence, and that first episode is this afternoon. It'll be recorded, and then also tomorrow, speaking on a summit, and 4 of my mentees, my young mentees who are now book authors, they're going to be speaking on a panel about what it was like to be 10, 12, and 13 years old and be an author of a book. So, so exciting things happening there. And then a few of my students are also on a summit next week called the Rise Up Summit. They're going to be talking about their life's experiences and challenges they faced and how they've overcome them, become more resilient, which, I find is something that our young people struggle with these days. They don't have the resilient skills that I think you and I did. When we were young, Todd, we played a lot outside. We built forts, we negotiated deals with our friends, and we overcame conflicts. And I don't think our kids have those same opportunities.
It's a different world.
It is a very different world.
Well, and it's a different world too, because it's not as safe as it was, right? I'd be gone all day. My mom had no idea. In the woods, whatever. I mean, gone all day. And when the street lights come on, that's when I was supposed to come home.
Exactly.
And and today it's kind of weird, because we really can't trust that to happen without knowing where the kid is.
Right. Yep. And they're on cell phones all the time now too, which I think is a safety issue. I think it's good. Think about the unsafe conditions of our planet And if a child is going to be gone all day, it's nice to have a cell phone, right? Where you can at least contact them or trace where they are. But there are so many dangers now too. I just heard a horrific story about a young boy in his school bathroom, and somebody busted down the door, took his picture, and now they've spread that all over the internet. Those are the types of things that our kids have to deal with, this shaming that can go viral so quickly. And it's not like, when you and I were bullied when we were young, at least when we got home from school, we could escape it.
Yeah, but I think that's where you come in teaching young people the thoughts and ideas about compassion and about, what's important to me, because when we understand those, it's highly unlikely that we're going to subject somebody else to it. So I truly believe it's an awareness thing. And I think that's where the key is in education at the younger level and getting these kids to understand some of those things. My thoughts. But
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's about empathy. It's about building the thoughts that you have something in common with everybody, and you can have that compassion for them. Compassion, which is a very high energetic emotion, right?
right.
Pity, not so much. Pitying somebody isn't necessarily a positive emotion, but having compassion and empathy definitely is. And that's what we hope that our programs are bringing to kids. I've seen evidence that we are doing it. So
Keep
yeah.
up the good work. You're doing a great job. I want to remind our listeners that today's show page is at www.lifemasterradio.com. Any links that we talk about, and I do believe our guest has a giveaway, so you might want to remember www.lifemasterradio.com and today's show page with our amazing guest, who I think Jackie's going to be introducing right now. Take it away, Jackie.
I am. I'm really delighted to introduce all of you to Mary E. Knippel. She is a fabulous person and has some insights to share about getting real deep into your own stories and bringing those out in the world. So she is an author. She's a speaker. She's the founder of YourWritingMentor.com. She guides small business owners to write their books as a powerful driver of business growth. And she helps aspiring authors to get their expertise out of their head so that publishers and readers can find them and they can finally make money. That's a good thing. So she's written 2 books. One is called The Secret Artist. It is her memoir. Give yourself permission to let your creativity shine. And then she's also been pivotal in putting together some compilation books, and the first one is called Written in Her Own Words. And so we're going to be talking about those today. If you're looking for a proven professional who uses her 35 years of experience as a journalist to ask provocative questions and uncover the heart of your message with clarity and compassion, then Mary is the person to go to. And she is running some retreats and she's doing some programs. We're going to be talking about all of that. So I am delighted to introduce all of you to Mary E. Knippel. Mary, it's great to have you with us.
Oh, thank you, Jackie and Todd. I'm so excited to be here. And I was listening to you two talk, and it just struck. I want everyone to know that when they have compassion for the wisdom that they have discerned from their life experiences, that's the core of how we can have compassion for everyone.
Oh yeah.
Well, what are your thoughts, Mary? Because probably you're probably the same generation as Jackie and I, and growing up, we didn't have these skill building things, in our presence, and now I'm just curious what your thoughts are about giving these kids skills when they're 10, 11, 12 years old. Can you imagine, Mary, being 12 years old and saying, I'm an author of a book?
Well, that would be pretty empowering to have that vehicle that you're already accomplished. It's, I think today the sad fact is that we have to start when they are so small to be aware of their surroundings, to be able to voice the boundaries that it's not okay for just anybody to come up and randomly give me a hug or that kind of thing. I mean,
well, you started pretty small though. Your story in your memoir at least starts with you around the age of 8, I think, when you were out in the forest, right? And you were
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, right? I knew that I was, going out to, I grew up in a small town on a farm, and I had a playhouse where I would go and write in my journal. But we were pretty self-contained. No, my mother didn't know where I was. I was always on the property. And I was one of 6. So if she didn't know where I was, somebody else knew where I was. Yeah. And so it's just a reflection on the society that we have today, that the kids, when they get to be, double digits, that they expect to have a phone, because that's the way you even track them. But it's that we empower the kids to be speaking up for themselves, and to know that they are valuable as who they are, and not because they're empowering somebody else to have any dominion over them.
Not only sticking up for themselves, but others too, right? Because that's where you stop. When people just are gawking and watching these events occur, and somebody doesn't step in and say, hey, this isn't right. That's where empowerment comes from, I think.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah. So Mary, you started really young then, journaling, you said? And,
I have always known that the answers were at the end of a pen, and wasn't encouraged to be able to write, because that just wasn't realistic. But I've always used my skills. Thinking back, as I went to school, 1-year secretarial certificate to be a secretary. I could always get a job there, but I was always editing and rewriting my boss's things, so it looked good. And now, when you talk about, what did you do as a kid that you love doing, and how does that show up in your life today? Well, I've always been curious about why people do what they do, and what got them started, and what keeps them doing it. So I'm still correcting others' grammar, but I am also, the bigger picture is that I'm the catalyst. I'm a muse. I'm a cheerleader. That your story matters, and you are the only one that can tell that story, because you're the only one who knows it from the inside out. Right. And an example of one of the gals who was written in her own words. We've been friends for a long time, and she didn't think she had a story to tell, but she said, I'm kind of thinking that I want to be in this book, so that you're going to help me figure out what it is that it's time for me to talk about. And even her kids didn't know the extent of the story that she told. And I was just so proud of her for stepping up and having the courage to be transparent and vulnerable on the page. And it's one thing to be, talking one-on-one to say, oh, this is me, but to put it in print so that somebody else can have it in their hands and be impacted by your story. That's how I'm just so gratified that I get to be part of that. And it moves me. I get emotional, because it's knowing that you're talking soul to soul, that you put your heart on the page.
Yeah, our stories, especially when they're told by us, have great power to influence others and to comfort others, right? I mean, because so many people think, oh, I'm the only one with this problem and it's just me, and they wallow in that. But yet when they hear somebody reflect how that same thing occurred to them, it creates the healing process.
Yes, absolutely, the healing process. And the fact that our story can offer hope to somebody else. The circumstances probably are different, but the situation and the lesson that you learned, the wisdom that was gleaned, and that whole situation, how it has created who you are,
Right.
gave you the skills to be who you are.
Right.
No, that hope is so invaluable.
Well, there is such a beautiful healing relationship between your hand writing something longhand. I mean, today maybe we use a keyboard more than not, but when I was going through healing from my childhood abuse, the psychologist I was working with, she had me write.
Mhm.
And that was such a nice methodology to get out what was in my heart and my head onto a paper and release it. And I think that that's what you're talking about, is that a lot of people don't realize the healing effect in itself that can have, even if you never plan on publishing something that you write, just that act of releasing it from what's in your heart or your head and those emotions, whatever they can be, because you can write out in an angry way. Even if you're feeling angry, you write it out in an angry way, or you type it in an angry way, whatever it is. And all of that coming together can be part of that very needed
Yes,
release, right?
absolutely. And
And I
it
think,
it's a physicalness of getting it out of your body and just
yeah,
releasing it.
yeah. A
Absolutely.
lot of
I'm
people, I
sorry I
think,
cut you off.
that's okay. I was just going to say, I think a lot of people hold back on writing their story because they don't think anybody would want to read it. But that's not the important part of it.
No,
The important
no,
part is the first step is that you've got to get it out of you. Whether
yeah,
you ever let anyone else read it or not, it's going to be valuable for you to put it down, right?
absolutely. And because the first person that really has to get what you're writing about is you. If
Mm-hmm.
you're not interested in it, forget about trying to sell it to a publisher or publish it somewhere where anybody is going to have a reaction to it. Because if you're just filling in the blanks, your reader knows that.
Mm-hmm.
And when somebody comes to me and says, I don't know where to start, I don't know what to say, I'll give them a writing prompt and I'll say, here's where you start. You pick up your pen, you set the timer for 5 minutes, and let your pen move across the page in response to that prompt. What does my book want me to know today? What does my heart want me to know today?
Mm-hmm.
And it's very important, in my opinion, and as far if somebody wants to get my ideas, it's that you have that pen moving across the page, because you are physically in a different part of your brain when your hands are on a keyboard than when you're grasping a pen and having, because that slows your head down so that you can get your thoughts on page. And I will have people say, but I can't read my handwriting. That doesn't matter. It's the fact that you are making connection on the page.
Right.
I don't always go back and read my journal, but I know that I did a dump and I got it out of my head. And sometimes I will go back and what did I talk about there? Everything that I've done personally and professionally started in my journal. And The Secret Artist is a series of essays that I wrote before and during and after my second breast cancer experience. And writing was definitely part of my protocol, because I was talking about, going for the mammogram before surgery and how I passed out because I was just so stressed. And what I encourage people to always do is to connect your heart to how you are showing up right now. So I give you writing prompts at the end of every one of my essays to help you start writing your story, to relate to, well, I didn't have anything that major. That's why some people will come to me and say, I haven't had anything dramatic happen to me. It doesn't happen. You're the one who put the label dramatic. I mean, there's something that has brought you to where you are right now. And we wouldn't be having the conversation if there wasn't something that the universe was nudging you, that it's time. You talked about this. And I get so emotional that I cry. And it's so long. I didn't think that I could be a speaker or even be coaching anybody, because this happens all the time. And it's just like, okay, obviously I can't practice not to cry, because I didn't know what we were talking about today. There's no script.
Well, yeah, it's just your emotions. It's just you're passionate, and there's totally nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
I know, but there are many studies that have proven that when we handwrite things out, it anchors it in our brain. And I think you touched on that a little bit. I never really considered that it slows our mind down, right? But there's also the coordination between creating the characters and putting that thought on paper with those characters.
Yeah. Anchor is a good. Yeah, absolutely.
What else do you say to people that come up to you and say, I don't know what to write about? I have no idea. I don't have any stories. I don't have nothing major has occurred in my life.
When I get a chance to be a speaker, whether it's for 5 minutes or 25 minutes or a workshop, I will be giving at least one writing prompt, if not multiple. And one that I really love to do is to think about when you were a kid. How do you lose yourself? What activity just carried you for hours? And think about, where does that show up in your life today? Or doesn't it? And why?
Yeah. Interesting. And I do love that in your book, The Secret Artist, you do provide writing prompts at the end of every chapter. And so even if someone goes into it thinking, I don't know what I have to write, like Todd suggested, what would I say? Well, they get some prompts from you to start thinking about it. So since you do workshops and you have some of those prompts in your book, what are, besides the one that you just said about think about, where you could get lost as a child for hours and hours? That's a great question, actually. Are there others that you find are really helpful too, to start people thinking about what they could write about?
Yeah, to write about the first job that you had, the first time someone paid you. And a lot of times I'll be working with someone on their website, and we're working on their bio to include all encompassing. And one of my clients, she was ready to talk about, well, I won this award and I won this award, and for the job that she's had since she's been an adult. And I said, no, go farther back. The first time someone paid you. And she said, well, I babysat. And I said, oh, okay, let's have some specifics. How old? Well, it was a newborn. And I said, okay. That they're pretty tiny. How old were you?
I was
10. Yeah, it's kind of a big deal.
Wow.
And she was 10. And I said, oh, let's have more details around that. Because a 10-year-old with a newborn, how did this mother know that you could handle it? And she said, well, she's seen me with my handicapped brother, and she was my next door neighbor. There's a specific detail that was left out of the first description. And I said, you're a 10-year-old and you convinced an adult you could take care of a newborn. Don't you see how that has been in your DNA your entire life? And she goes, no, not really. I don't see why I would put it in my bio. And later we were at a networking group, and she was on a panel, and they were all introduced, all invited to introduce themselves using something that they didn't think the rest of us knew. And I went up to her and I said, hey, here's your chance. I don't think anybody else in the room knows about the babysitting. And she goes, we're all professionals here. I'm not going to do that. And it was a suggestion and it would be a great opportunity. But she did use it. And I saw the audience lean in a little more. They got to see another side of her and more of her humanity. The awards that she wanted to include in her bio, and we eventually did, but they were all for sales. She had been outstanding in her industry, but she had a foundation. She'd been doing that her entire life. And she came up to me later and she goes, there are more women that came up to me and wanted to have rapport because talked about babysitting. And I said, yeah, they got to know you and not the professional.
Right.
And so that's one that I love to give. It's like, what did you do as a kid? What was your first job? And how does that show up in your life now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really important.
That's a big one. I mean, that is just huge. And I could see how that would connect with the audience more so than my pedigree, right?
Yeah. I went to this school and I received these awards. It's more like a trust factor. I want to know you're human.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's very cool.
That is
okay. So you have these prompts, and I heard you say that you should sit down, set a timer, and just start writing. How about those people that just sit there? What do you do to encourage them?
I say keep at it. That the timer is there so that you're not looking at your watch all the time. I always play the same music. I light a candle, and
so there are other prompts too that we could use: a candle, music.
Oh yeah, you set the scene, and you do it the same time every day if possible. And you're just like you go to the gym and you wouldn't pick up the 50-pound weight. You pick up the 5-pound weight. You ease into it. The fact is that once you open the floodgate, you let your imagination know, or your psyche know, or the universe know, whoever spirit that is going to be helping you, in encouraging you to let the story be told. They're going to help you. Your soul is going to give you the words. You hold the pen and be guided. And if it doesn't come immediately,
write whatever comes to you, right?
You write whatever comes to you. You do not judge it. You do not go back and say, oh, I could have used a better word there, or go look up the spelling, or do I need a semicolon here? No, nobody's reading this. Yeah. This is for you to get an immediate connected download. I talked about intuition. I firmly believe that we all have a definite connection with the universe when we sit down and listen. And I use my 40 years as a journal to really tune into, well, what is it that you're not talking about? How can I encourage you? How can I coax that out of you to know that this is a safe space, that your writing is your writing for you, first of all.
Yeah.
You put it so eloquently. You make it so eloquent. It's just like, and it really, Mary, it is that easy, right? I mean, once you have to get started.
It is that easy, and people are scared that they're going to be judged, that somebody's going to find that I have this in my background. Well, I'm not saying that everything that goes in your journal is going to be published on Amazon. I'm saying that you have to know everything that you've been compartmentalized, and that you have already edited, and looking at all of your truth helps you decide, this is the part that I am going to be transparent about, because this helps who needs me to find me.
Well, and that is a huge part of it, right? Because I think what we don't realize is that we are here to inspire each other. And if we don't understand how our experiences lead us to do that, then that I think is when we often get misguided, or we feel, what's my purpose? I don't have anything to do. But when we understand that every experience we've had has taught us something, it has given us more power, or it's given us more knowledge, or it's given us more insight into who we are and the world itself, that just shapes us to then have a message that is going to be common with at least one other person that's hearing us, right? And if all we do is touch that one heart with an experience that we happen to share, the ripple effect we can't see. So we see it maybe having an effect on one person, but we don't know how that person is going to affect somebody else and someone else beyond that. And I think sometimes we don't realize the power that we have. Just simply, and like you say, it starts with just putting it down, looking back at it, and then drawing like a from dot to dot. How is that 10-year-old babysitter like me now? What skills was I already exhibiting at that young age that I still have ingrained within me, like you said, Mary? And then when you can personalize that in a story, and if you're speaking on stage or writing it in a book, that's when people start to see your vulnerability and the idea that you are someone they could trust because you are them, right? You've not put yourself up on this pedestal. Look at me, I'm this great professional, I'm an expert in all this, da 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 da. Well, that's great, but they have to also have a relationship with you first on a personal level,
and be able to connect. I think that's where you're going.
Connect,
Jackie, is to be able to connect to you. And personal stories are what connect to people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because we're all storytellers, and nothing is random. It's just that at the time we don't know, well, why did this happen? And what am I supposed to learn from this? And you talk about, the major stressors in your life: a loss of a job, a loss of a loved one, a major move, a catastrophic illness, and divorce. I've had all of them at least twice. Now I've had, breast cancer for the third time. Year. So there's another book there. And the moves, and we did celebrate our 51st wedding anniversary. So there's no divorce. However, there's ups and downs of a long
I would imagine
relationship like that. So it's looking at, okay, there's the little label on the loss of a loved one, and the catastrophic illness, and the loss of a job.
Betrayal.
It's the circumstances around your circumstances, when you're sharing specifics, that people can lean in and go, well, she gets me, and look at how she's coping with that, what she's done with it.
Right.
With someone that's big in the industry that talks about making your mess your message. And I don't think that our lives are a mess. No. I think that we have an opportunity to live our divine destiny. And so I'm all about you rewriting the story that you're telling yourself, so that you can show up in the story that you're destined to have.
So something along those lines that I experienced, and I know Jackie's experienced it too, is when writing my book, and after it was published, people would come up to me and say, wow, you're really putting yourself out there by talking about those things. Were you reserved at all? I was like, no, that's just me. That's my story, and that's a part of me. And they it almost seemed like they were dumbfounded that I would be able to talk about those things and put that out into the world. Maybe you could speak to that a little bit.
Well, there are those who are just want to keep it so close that it isn't anybody else's business, and that's them. And I firmly believe that if we don't share the story that we are meant to share, that we have been entrusted with, that we're depriving somebody else of the life that they're designed to have.
Excellent.
Because I think of our stories as part of a beautiful tapestry. We all have a thread. That's our story. And if our thread isn't there, the picture isn't complete.
Mary, it brings me back to, I don't know if you're religious or have read the Bible, but there's a parable of the talents where a man gives different numbers of talents, which are parts of money or pieces of money, to 5 different people, right? And to some he gives just 1, to others 2, and others 5. And then he tells them, go do something with those. And the one guy, buries what little money he's given, and while the others expand upon it, and they share their talents. And I think what you're saying is a little bit like that, in that we're giving these experiences in life that we can either bury, we can keep them to ourselves, and we can do nothing with them. And we're going to be chastised for that action someday. Or we can take maybe the one really big challenge we had, or the 5 or 10,000 challenges we had, and we can share those with others. And we can expand our own abilities and our skills and our inspirational selves and love for ourselves through expanding those to other people. So there's really a couple of choices there. But I find that the people who are the happiest are those who are very willing to share their mistakes, share their challenges, but also say, this is how I overcame them, and this is how I'm doing something different now because of it, right? We all have that ability. No matter what the experience was, we all have the ability to do that.
Yeah.
So tell us what maybe is one of your biggest challenges that you've had, and how writing about it helped you to overcome it or heal from it.
So the breast cancer was one. When I alluded to, death of a loved one, my brother passed away. And he was my older brother, and we were very close. And his children came to me and said, "Was eulogy?" And so that was affirmation from my family that, okay, they're recognizing I'm the writer. And I wrote it, and my cousin saw me practicing to deliver it at his funeral mass, and she said, "Oh, you look really nervous. Why don't you just let Father read this?" And it's like, nothing doing. Nobody can deliver this and talk about my brother the way I can. And yes, I white knuckled it as far as hanging onto the podium. But it was kind of my baptism by fire as far as being a speaker. And also putting my words into the universe. And I had the privilege of really nailing his personality. So quirky. And he marched to a different drummer. And I told a story that not even somebody who was there didn't remember. But a lot of the people in the room had no idea that had happened. And so they left church is laughing through their tears because, like, that was my brother.
Yeah.
And it's being able to really help people show up on the page to represent who they are and what they believe is my biggest blessing. And not being encouraged to be a writer and listening to that would have been my biggest regret. And so I am compelled to tell everyone,
drive forward.
I encourage and that I encounter that you have a story.
Well,
and the world needs to hear it.
Everybody can write. Everybody has a story, and everybody has a book in them, right? I think I get that.
Yeah, I believe that. Whether they want to share it or not, they have something. I love helping women with memoir because that is the heart. And when people say, "Oh, your personal story doesn't belong in business," I was like, "Oh no." That is so wrong. Your personal story is the heart and soul of your business.
Absolutely. It is the branding for everything. I mean, I think whether or not you ever have a business, you have to put forth your personal branding all the time, right? People are watching what we do, they're learning, they're using us as an example, whether we like it or not, for good or bad, right? People are always watching us, and I tell my young students that no matter where you are, there are people watching you, and they're either going to be inspired by you to do something really positive, or they're going to be inspired by you to do something that could be destructive. And yes, we all have that responsibility. So Mary, with this very clear direction I think that you've taken us in, is that we have this story, we need to share it because it will be inspiring to others. I need to ask you this question. Now that AI is on the scene, and all the time, because I'm in these networks of people that are writers and speakers and entrepreneurs, it seems to be like the new thing for everybody. And now I'm hearing that people are writing entire books in a day through AI. I'm not going to tell you how I feel about that quite yet. I want to know what your opinion is on that. Yes, I understand technology can be really helpful at times. I struggle with it myself because it seems like the biggest challenges I have are with technology. So I see that there are blessings of this. What's your thought on this new trend to write books using AI?
Well, AI has been around for a long time. Just think about when you're writing an email and you get the auto suggestion of how to finish this phrase. So there's no denying that it's here. Using it to write whole books and then publishing it under somebody's name, I don't think that it's something that I would encourage. Using AI as a research tool, absolutely, to go gather facts before you put it into the context of what you're writing. What I think is being lost is a person's ability to put their voice into the story, to reflect their personality. AI is a tool. It's not an author.
That's a nice way to put it.
Well, and I think up to this point, it's my understanding that you can tell a difference. If you were going to read an article or a book written by AI, you could definitely tell that was a little off. Whereas a person writing it, you would definitely click in with. I think the way I understand it today, anyway.
Well, I would hope so, but Mary has so eloquently illustrated here is that it's our personal stories that make the connection. So even though, yes, AI is a tool for perhaps editing or helping you to research some things, as far as writing stories without your personal influence in that, it seems fake. It just seems
Robotic.
Yeah. Yeah. So as much as I think it's helpful for some things, if you're writing a memoir, I don't see how you could ever use like chat.
That'd be hard.
Chat GPT.
Unless your entire life is on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Talk about the sixth grade incident with Sister Jessica. How is AI going to help with that?
Right. Well, I do think that, chat GPT, maybe there's a later version of it where it will actually scan internet sites for you and stuff like that to pull out information. But the free version that I use does not have the capability of doing anything like that, because I've even tried it with myself. It's like, if I were to write something about the Speak Feed Lead project, what would that, and it won't scan websites for me. But maybe that's because I use the free version. So it is possible. But anyway, so I'm glad to hear that, because I do think that we're losing a personal touch in so many things. Why now do we have to do it in books? Because if it's that easy in one day to publish a book, then is it really going to have the emotional impact that you want it to? And it's just a question I'll put out there to the cosmos. So tell us then, Mary, what does your process look like when you start to help someone to pull out those stories, or to start this, what can be scary process of getting a book done? How does your program go, and what does it look like?
Well, first I just want to allay people's fears that, write a book in a weekend. It took you a long time to get where you are right now, to have this longing. How long were you thinking, oh yeah, I should write a book someday? And the people who say, yeah, someday I'll get around to it. Well, someday isn't a date on the calendar. Mm-hmm. So if you're serious, then the first thing we do is like, when would you like this book to be published? Mm-hmm. Put a date on the calendar so that we have something to work back
Excellent.
from.
That's
and I, as a developmental editor, I'm the one that you come to when I have a working title. Okay, great. Go get the URL for that working title, because you may be referring to it somewhere in the book. And to help you get your concept down, figure out who you're writing for, who is going to benefit from this book.
Your audience, right?
And know what it is that you want them to walk away knowing. What do you want them to do when they finish your book? How are you going to impact them and inspire them? And I will challenge you to go to the library or a bookstore and see what is on the shelves where you think your book is going to be. Who are you in competition with? Or who are you filling the gap for? So that when you go and pitch, if you're going to look for a publisher, you can name drop that you're the next best that you have done your research to know that you know who your audience is, you know what they're going to get out of reading your book, and give that agent or publisher a reason that, I want them in my repertoire. I want them to be part of my publishing house, because they get it. They're going to help me establish this genre is even bigger and better. One thing that I do at the San Francisco Writers Conference is have opportunities for the newbies who think that Grammarly is enough of an editor to the ones who are pitching to an agent to come and talk about their writing project. That we do free 8-minute interviews so that they can have an opportunity to talk to an editor. And what exactly does an editor do? And the fact is, you need multiple editors to get your book from the idea stage to being published on Amazon or whoever publishes it.
Mm-hmm.
And first and foremost, knowing who your audience is, knowing what you want them to walk away with, it's creating the content and helping them get those into buckets and have some semblance, because it's unwieldy to think about all of that opportunity and all of those thoughts getting down on paper, and how do I manage all of that? And so as a developmental editor, that's my job, is to hold the big concept. And I encourage my authors to, you just show up on the page and let's create your content. And the good news is that not everything is going to go in the book, but everything you're creating is going to go somewhere, because besides starting, I'm writing a book, I also encourage you to start writing a blog, being visible online, so that when people Google you, they're going to find you, and develop your people. Find your people who are wanting to read more from you, that are going to be there when you say, hey, the book's on Amazon, that will go and buy it, and you will establish yourself as the author that you are. But you already are that author when you say, I'm writing a book and I have this message that is woven throughout the whole book. That's that thread, that the essence of your message is throughout the book. And when people stop reading it, when they lay it down because they've finished the last, they're hungry for more. They want to work with you. They want to buy your programs. They next book. It's helping you establish you and your expertise in the world.
Well, tell us a little bit about we only have about 5 minutes left. We're coming down, and boy, this hour just went so fast, Mary. I know. I've had an absolute blast. But tell us about some of your programs. Entice me to attend or check them out.
Well, Todd, the Wise Woman Wisdom Retreat is something that's near and dear to my heart.
Wait. So if you see somebody that looks like me wearing a wig, don't blow my cover.
You might want to do something about the beard. So that's happening November 15th through the 19th. And it's an invitation for women who need a space to tap into their creativity, spend some time thinking and being with what it is that they want to accomplish in this wild, wonderful world. And we'll do some writing, yes, but we'll also do some other hands-on activities to get your juices flowing and get excited about what it is that you want to create. So that's happening in November. And I do have another volume of Written in Her Own Words that's going to be published in July next year. And I'm looking for authors who are longing to get that story out. And it's you telling your transformational story. It's an opportunity for you to get your feet wet as far as being an author. You will be an Amazon bestseller because that's part of the program. And I also have, so Todd, I do have a 6-month author mentorship program that you would be perfect for. And so would Jackie, that I help you get the concept of what it is you want to write about and get things into the buckets, get your blog going, concentrate on how it is that you want to show up for your readers, and be clear about what it message that you are here to share, and get you to your first draft.
Right. Awesome. And you've got this compilation book, but you're also looking for women contributors to the next one, right?
Yes. This is volume 1. Volume 2 is coming out in July.
Okay.
Yes.
So if someone goes to your retreat and finds out, hey, I have a story now I could tell, they could actually also be an author in your book, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you may You may start writing your first draft at the retreat. It's not a requirement. However, it would be a great bonus.
Yeah, it's a great book, way to start getting into the field of authoring something. I mean, I wrote my own book originally, but then I've been in 4 compilation books since then, and it is nice to be among other people's genius and share a small story, so that people don't have to like read an entire book about you, but it kind of helps you to stay present and update
absolutely
your
writing in
story
community.
and other experiences. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. So
absolutely. And I also have a freebie of writing prompts. So if people don't know where to get started, don't know if they didn't catch what I was talking about to build your writing muscle, that you create your own writing strategy, that I'm talk about that. And so you would receive a writing prompt every day in your email or a text, whichever way you choose, and start building your writing muscles.
That's too easy. And I think you're going to give us that link. That link will be in Jackie and I's newsletter. Jackie creates a newsletter every week about the guests that we just had on the show. And you can go to www.lifemasteryradio.com and sign up for that newsletter. It will probably be in the blog too, that Jackie will write. And that will be published at, can you guess? www.lifemasteryradio.com.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, and you'll learn more about the retreat as well in the blog. So lots of reasons to read the blog, people.
Yes.
And of course, you can see Mary's website. It's right there, yourwritingmentor.com. That was a good score. You got that URL. Any last thoughts, Mary? We're just about out of time, but is there a last parting thought you want to give to our listeners?
I would just encourage everyone to know that your story matters and your story makes a difference. So please unleash the writer in you.
Everybody has a book in them. That's about all we have time for today. I hope you enjoyed the show. My biggest hope is that you will tell a friend about the show and tune in again next week, because we've got another amazing guest just for you and your very own life mastery journey. Lastly, please, please, please make it a great day, because it's all about choice. Bye-bye for now.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for tuning in to Life Mastery Radio. Join Todd Allen and Jackie Bailey and their guests of leading authors, speakers, coaches, and entrepreneurs weekly at 10 a.m. Pacific. Learn to live a peaceful life with intentional mastery through stories and messages to support your well-being and most evocative dreams. Visit their website, www.lifemasteryradio.com. Join their mailing list and be notified about upcoming guests. That's lifemasteryradio.com.